Okay, so I have my slab of clay. It's all nice and rolled out. I still have my rulers and I have my needle tool. Now, I also created templates for you guys. If you're an 8th grader, you're going to be making a rectangle pot that has a base that is 4 by 4, and then your walls are going to be 4 by 5. And I've made templates, not enough for all of you to have your own, but enough that you can share. Or you also have these handy dandy rulers that you could use and do some measuring. So I'm going to show you how to use both of them, okay? So if I'm making my template, if I'm using my template, I'm going to come over here to where I can fit my template the best with using as much or losing as little of the clay as I possibly can that I rolled out. Okay, I'm going to go like that. And then I'm going to use my needle tool, which we did not have needle tools last year. And these are nice. Some of you are going to notice the difference right away with the needle tool compared to the plastic butter knives we were using last year. So I'm just going to hold in the center. I'm not applying a lot of pressure because I don't want to change the thickness of my clay. I'm just changing the shape, and I'm making a tile or a wall, in this case the bottom, because my bottom is going to be 4 by 5. Okay, so now I can pull away the extra little bits of clay from my tile. And now I have a nice 4 by 4 square. Now, if I want to, because you know I can use a ruler to measure things, I can measure another slab. Okay, if you are one of my 7th graders, you're going to be making a 4 by 4 box this year. Okay, so let me see what size I can get here out of this. So if I use my ruler and I'm going to measure 4 inches, let's see how far we can go. So from my cut line, now on my ruler, you will notice I have a little indication where the measurements start, and then I have the beginning of the ruler. I need to make sure that if I measure from where this start line is, that I do that every single time. Otherwise, I'm adding, what is that, like a 1/16 of an inch or something onto my measurement, so it's not going to be the same. So I usually start with the start line. Some people like to start with the beginning of the ruler. It just depends on how accurate you want to be. Either one is fine. Just make sure that you are consistent when you are measuring. Otherwise, your measurements will be off, okay? So I'm going to start down here from my cut line, starting at the beginning of my ruler, where the actual start line is. And it looks like I can get a 4-inch piece. Let me see how tall I can go. Maybe I can go taller. I think I might be able to get a 5-inch piece. So I'm going to come, what I'm going to do, I'm going to measure out 4 inches, and I'm going to take my needle tool and I'm going to go straight down into the clay where the 4 inches is. And then I'm going to use my ruler and I'm going to slice off some of my extra clay right here so I can have that even line. I'm going to put it down here because I can get a 5-inch score, 4 by 5. Now I'm going to come up here towards the top. Again, my inch measurement line is, my clay is at the start line. I'm going to the 4, and I'm just taking my needle tool and going straight down. Now there are little dots in my clay, and you can kind of see this first one up here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up those dots with my ruler. I do this in lots of different things. If I'm trying to cut a square or draw something to a specific length, I will add little dots to my paper and then line my ruler up with those little dots so that way I can line up nice and perfect. Okay, so now I have a straight line. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create another straight line that I can measure from so I can make my 5 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here and I'm going to go from where it kind of straightens off here, and I'm going to create a clean area from which I can measure from. Okay, so now I have a nice angle that I can measure from. So I want to go 5 inches up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start down here I'm going to put the 5 mark line on the edge of the clay, and then I'm going to go up to the start line, and I'm going to put a mark right through the center of my clay. If that confuses you and you would rather measure going from the 1 to the 5, or the start of the 1 inch to the 5 inch, that's fine. That's however it is that you are most comfortable. And then I'm going to put another mark up there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to line those up straight across. And I'm going to cut straight across. Okay, now I've got a little bit extra clay right here because it didn't quite line up right because of where I cut that other square from. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ruler and I'm just going to clean up that little extra part. Okay, and get rid of that. Okay, so I have a 4x5 tile, and then I have a 4x4 tile. And I've shown you 2 different ways that you can use to cut them. You can use the template that I've made for you, or you can use a ruler and measure. Some of you might be more comfortable with the ruler and the measuring. Some of you are going to be a lot more comfortable with the pre-made pattern. That's fine. Just make sure that you're actually not indenting the clay and that you're holding it down nice and firm, so that way you can cut that nice even line, so that way you're not drawing it, making it bigger or smaller. Okay, so now I have 2 tiles. I'm not ready to begin my project, but I'm done with this demonstration for you. Okay, so there's 2 different ways that you can measure and cut a tile.